Hey, what's up, Life Without Pants with another Path of Exile 2 video, and in today's video we're going to talk about what's the early access like, how does it feel. I've played through the first 3 acts as a Sorc, and I'm currently re-rolled into Witch to try that out as well, and I've got a lot of mixed feelings. It's a real mixed bag. So, I mean, overall the quality of the game is just like very, very good. It feels like the most polished Ubisoft title of all time, and that's, you know, it's very, very good. Like the ambience, the audio quality is insane. Camille did a fantastic job with the audio team. Just really, really good ambience. The music is amazing. Like the pan flutes just in the background in Act 3, or all the, I think it's like sitars in Act 2. It all feels really, really good. The environments feel, you know, real and like lived in, and just honestly the art quality and the other stuff like this. This is a caravan. It's being pulled by these guys. They're all I think the hideout you can get in Path of Exile 1, there's lizards pulling this, but in the game it's just a bunch of dudes. And they all have their sort of hands like this. They're praying, and they have their hands locked there, and then they're all pulling this. Honestly, like, it feels great. These guys are just riding rowers, which could be pulling this, but no, use the slaves instead. So let's just talk about, I mean, the art, the sound, just beautiful, wonderful. The difficulty is okay. Honestly, I do believe the difficulty is okay. It is a hard game. It's not like I died to, I think, every boss the first time. There's a couple where I didn't. Maybe I got lucky, but every boss I died to the first time. Good luck if you're playing this on hardcore. I don't know why you would do that to yourself. You have to, I think, you have to really, really over-level and over-gear in hardcore. I'm not sure. Actually, we can check how many... this is my second playthrough, and I've died 6 times on this witch character, and I'm sort of, I guess, around halfway through Act 2. That's, I think, at this point I died like 30 or 40 times on my Sorc. And the difficulty is okay when you have the gear. And that's the real issue, is the gear's non-existent. There's so few drops. It's not, I'm not asking for a Path of Exile 1 experience where every boss explodes into 30 enlightened, empowered mirrors of Calandra. But there are zones you can do where you get maybe one rare item. And the zones are huge. And that's another issue, is the zones are really, really, really big. On my Sorc, I didn't get move speed as a stat on my boots until like late Act 3. And if the zones are really, really big, and I checked the vendor every level. This is usually what people say, like, why don't you just check the vendor? Like, I did check the vendor. I used all my crafting currency, not move speed once, on so many pairs of boots. It was so painful. So it's just a slog to go through. It feels like it's a real grind. Like, absolutely, like part of the name of the developer, Grinding Gear Games, but the other word in that developer name is gear. And there's not much gear. And there's a lot of stuff you can find from the vendor. You can, every rare item, you can disenchant it to get 1 regal shard. So that allows you to upgrade a magic item into a rare item, if you find rares to start with, and if you get a good magic item as well. So there's a lot of real issues with the currency drops are very few and far between. There's not enough to keep you crafting. There's not enough. You don't get enough stuff during this. Is just during the first 1 to 3 acts, mind you. The first 1 to 3 acts, you do not get enough currency to be able to constantly upgrade your character to a level where you feel the same. So the developers talked a lot about, every gear upgrade should be a meaningful upgrade, and it is, because you're constantly underpowered. And on my second playthrough, I found a couple of really, really useful items that made me feel super overpowered for like a whole act. And I got very lucky. I got 3 exalts in Act 1 on the second playthrough, none in Act 2 so far. But on my Sorc, I got 1 in Act, or 2 in Act 1, and then 0 in Act 2, and I think 1 very, very late on in Act 3. So just adding an affix to your gear can take you, I mean, these acts are really long. They weren't kidding when they said it's going to be 25 hours. These acts are really long. So you can wait 6 hours to add one affix to your gear. And the RNG is just so strong. It's so strong, and you can get absolutely nailed by it. The areas are very, very big. I think if they added like a move speed rune, just 10% move speed, so you could have 10% move speed on boots, you could add it, because that's the reason we have the cold resistance or the lightning resistance or whatever resistance on the runes, is that they said we're not going to have a crafting bench, but we want people to be able to solve problems with their gear. And I would argue not having move speed in a game this big until Act 3, and I got it on a unique, so it's guaranteed on that unique, it's always going to be there. If I hadn't gotten it on that unique, I would still be without move speed at the end of Act 3, at the end of the first round of difficulty. I'd still be without move speed. It blows my mind that there's not much action if you can't move around, and movement is survivability in this game as well. So my survivability was tanked because I don't have any move speed. So lots of the inadequacies in the gear sort of feed back into themselves. I went back and I farmed previous zones for like XP, for extra skill gems, for extra drops, and still nothing. And it just seems like you can get completely railroaded into this no drop scenario, and then you can't do much, and you can't really respec your character because the respec costs are insane. I was trying to disenchant everything so that I can then craft, and that means I can't sell everything, so that then I can, so you get to choose one route, and it's, do you disenchant things to try and solve your problems with gear, or do you sell everything so you can try to solve your problems with the passive tree? You can't do both. You can do both, but it will take you, a day of playing. This is not a game where you can log in, do an hour, and then log out, because you will not feel like you've made any meaningful progress unless you're very lucky. The passive tree as well, a lot of the nodes do not feel good. It's supposed to be a very big a meaningful choice for your character, like, oh, I'm going to get this fire penetration, and it doesn't feel like those things work that well. I went a lot of defense on the Sork because you're a glass cannon, and I mistakenly believed that a lot of the power would come from the level of the skills, and it does to an extent, and my survivability was quite important, so I wanted to be around to cast Fireball for longer, and I should have just gone all offense. I really should have just gone all offense. I went for lots of mana regen nodes, I went for lots of energy shield nodes, faster recharge of energy shield, and there were some bosses that I encountered, like the Molten guy in Act 3. It's just a DPS check. It's a timed via animations and stuff boss fight. So if you can't do enough damage, that's it. You die. You can't pass that boss. So I have to go. I'll probably go through all of Act 4, and then I'll go back to one of the later zones in Act 3, and I'll finish that boss off eventually. I hope he drops something worthwhile, because it was a very difficult fight. I was doing good damage. I got to at the point I realized, oh, this is timed. There's not a timer on the screen, but there is something to indicate that time, or you have to not be in an area. You see, lava flows through a canal, but then the canal has an end to it, and if the lava flows in there, then you're trapped and you die. That's it. There's no way around. So there's no tool to survive that or to alter that fight to a meaningful way, other than just do enough damage. And that felt really, really bad. It just felt like, okay, so am I not supposed to be here? Do I need to multiply my damage by 200% to be able to do this boss? Do I have to use like ice on the lava or something? There's no indicator that maybe I could do that. It feels really bad. So that boss fight in particular. There were others as well. The dodge roll doesn't have phasing in it, and that can be a bit of an issue, because the dodge roll seems to be a mechanism for you to escape from dangerous situations. But if you're surrounded, that's it. It doesn't matter. You're going to die. If you have, I think the little scarab, the little skittering guys in Act 2 are a really great example. I was playing through on the witch, and you just get surrounded by scarabs. My minions just fell over because they're not that strong, and that means I can try and use my contagion, or I can try and use my flame wall or something if I can get the cast off, but I'll probably get interrupted. I'll probably get stunned during that, and that's it. I can't run away or anything. I don't have any move speed, so it seems like you're set up to fail a lot of the time, and you're not given the tools to challenge that, or to resolve that. I would, if I was in charge, I'm not, but if I was going to offer feedback, I would say just like buff the drops a little bit, like the currency drops a little bit, because I want to craft, I want to make my own gear, and I can't because there's not enough stuff to do it with, and I have problems with my gear, and so I need drops for that. So I've gone multiple times. I've gone back, say 3 zones prior where the damage feels okay, and I'm at the same level as the zone. I've got my skill gems are basically the right level for the area, or if I'm using a level 18 area, I've got a level 18 skill gem, that kind of stuff. I have equivalent stuff to the zone I'm in, and white monsters can just feel really, really like a slog, like a really, really big slog. I've heard that minions gets a lot better in Act 4 because you get more spirits, so you get your actual elemental army. And right now they don't feel good at all. They feel very, very difficult to work through. I've been messing around. I was using the gas grenade. That seemed really good. They nerfed it, or the gas arrow rather, from the sniper. I've been using unearth a lot. That honestly seems like one of the better skills. The bombardier, that guy's okay, but the skeletal warriors, they do decent damage, but SRS is really carrying the build. Honestly, the SRS, or Raging Spirits from the Flame Wall, is really carrying the build, and that doesn't feel good. That my main damage is just temporary minions, and that my regular minions are just there to stop white mobs from hitting me. That's it. They're just they're meat shield. They don't even have meat shield support on, but that's all they really do. It feels pretty difficult. Sometimes a boss will just do an AoE and then wipe them all out. So that's unfortunate, because I can't really tell them to dodge roll or anything. But yeah, the minions is a bit. Hopefully it'll get better, but there's just not enough. There's not enough drops. There's in the campaign. I've talked to some people in maps, and they're having a difficult time as well. But I think later on, with maps, you could probably just farm the same tier again and again and again until you have something, more decent upgrades. The spell levels really matter for Sork as well. Spell levels really matter. I was using, I think, a fire respec. I respec'd into fire for Sork, and I had a +2 fire spell skills wand, and that was the best I've had. I think I got it at level 20. And I'm at level 44 Sork. I haven't had an upgrade since level 20, so more than half of the time I've spent playing that build, I've not had an upgrade for the wand. And I've been crafting. I've been trying to get one. I've been using all my regals. I've been using all my transmutes, all my orgs. I've been checking the vendor every level up, and it's just not there. And it feels like you can just be on the wrong end of luck, and then the game will just feel bad, and that's what you get. So it's difficult. It's honestly really, really difficult. I think the difficulty is okay when you have gear and spells appropriate for the area. I think that kind of level of difficulty is really good. And if you fall behind, it's punishing. So I'm really, they've been nerfing a lot recently, the last few days, so I'm looking forward to the buffs that are surely coming anytime soon. I really hope they do address some of the player issues with the balance. I know this is going to be a different game from POE 1, and I welcome not having a trillion drops. I really do, and I want to have Path of Exile 1 and that be its own thing, and I want to be able to play Path of Exile 2. Do I want to spend 30 hours every 4 months going through the campaign again? Not really. That's really going to stop me from playing, I think. If it's if you're slow and it takes you 40 hours to get through the whole campaign, that's a work week. But a work week to get through to endgame every 4 months. That doesn't feel good. That feels like a job. And I mean, it's my job, but it feels very punishing. And boss fights can be really, the boss fights are very, very good. Like, I really like the bosses. I think they all feel very different. They all feel like they've got their own, special thing. A lot of the things are very well telegraphed. Some of them are very poorly telegraphed. The Act 2 final boss, there's a point where, spoiler alert, but there's a point where basically you're gonna die unless you get to a very specific zone, and it's like Zana in the Shaper fight, in the Elder fight, but there's no audio cue to tell you that you need to get there. It's not very well shown on screen. I was doing it on Twitch, and everybody was like, "Where are you supposed to stand?" And it was difficult, and I was standing in one place. And I stayed there, and it was fine until for some reason it just wasn't anymore, and then my health started just racing down, and it was fine for half of the sort of AoE effect, and then for the other half of it, it was just not fine anymore, and that feels really, really bad. The last zone in Act 2 is also just it was painful to go through. It was really painful. It didn't feel like I was really making progress, or it was fun. So those things can be pretty bad. The dodge roll, just put phasing on it, please. Just for the love of God, put phasing on it. It would solve so many things. I don't want to just dodge roll through the entire map. And I understand that might be the abuse case you're trying to worry about, but sometimes if a boss is doing like a 3-point slam, so they got like a big two-handed weapon and they hit once and then they hit once and then they hit once, and then they're going to draw that line of like destruction across the arena, then if you try to it feels like at the beginning of that animation, or when the boss has decided they're going to do that, there's an invisible wall that they draw across the arena, and you can't dodge roll across it, even though on the screen it looks like you absolutely should be able to dodge roll like through the under their arm or something like that. Those things feel really bad, because you want us to have be more engaged in the combat, and we're trying to be. And it just seems not like it's our investment, our time investment is not well respected, because I'm trying to do, I'm trying to engage in the combat. I'm trying to be more tactical. I'm trying to dodge roll this slam in an innovative way, and I can't just because there's an invisible wall there. And invisible walls in games never feel good, and nobody likes them, and they're a crux for developers to get around having to deal with innovative play styles, and it's a shame, because the bosses, honestly, they would be S tier if it wasn't for stuff like that. There's a few attacks that aren't really well telegraphed, and I have died to them. There's a few that are just do like all of my hit points and all of my EHP, all my energy shield. I've got decent resists as well, but the amount of resist gear that you find, very low. You'll probably never be capped during the campaign ever. I find it very difficult to imagine that you'll be capped on all 3 of your resists. Certainly not Chaos Res. I found 1 Amethyst ring the entire time I've been doing, maybe they have a drop restriction, but I found 1 Amethyst ring, and the implicit I think is like 7 to 13 as well. It used to be up to 23 in PB1. So Chaos resistance is always going to be an issue. And the stuff that does chaos damage, and it's one of the things that always stuck with me is that in all the interviews, the developers are like, yeah, we want to give you the tools to solve the thing. And I always thought like, yeah, that sounds really good. And I'm playing the game and I don't have the tools. I have not been given the tools to solve the thing. I have been given half of one tool, not 2 tools, and that's the real thing that's making it less enjoyable than I think it really could be. I'm going to play, I'm going to play for weeks this game. I'm going to try all of the classes. I'm going to try lots of different builds. That's one of the things I love about Path of Exile the most, is like all the different builds you can try. Like maybe I'm going to do a spell monk, or I'm going to do a cast on crit sorceress, or maybe I'm going to do big slams, AoE kind of warrior class, or I definitely want to try the mercenary out. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Like gemling seems really, really good. And if I have to go through 30 hours of campaign for every single one of those, it's going to make me stop, and it's going to make me not do it. And that, I want to try everything. And I'm not saying we should just be able to skip the campaign. Except that if you've done the campaign 4 times, so it says 30 hours, you've done it 4 times, it's 120 hours of campaign. I think maybe you should be able to skip the campaign for 1 character. Maybe. One of the things that I'm always seeing from Jonathan Rogers, one of the things he always says is, we'll never do campaign skip, because the feeling is that everybody starts, at one place, and you all have this sort of progression through the campaign, and then some people are, they can just skip really far ahead. I'm not asking for just campaign skip. I'm saying that if you've done it multiple times in the same league, maybe consider that not everybody's at this point anymore. Everybody's already over here, and you just want to get to where you want to catch up to everybody, but with a build that you think you might enjoy. Think of it like trying to catch up with people rather than you're skipping ahead, because that's what it is. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the game. I really like the game. I'm going to keep playing, and the campaign is going to be probably what makes me stop playing, because it's maybe too much of a grind. The areas are too big. The movement speed is not there. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. Obviously, there's some spoilers in here, so don't be surprised if you watch the whole thing and now I'm telling you. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you are kind to everyone you meet. I love you all very much, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.